The ancestors of Cecilia Seifert can be traced back to the early to mid-1700s. They resided in what is now eastern France until their departure for the New World in the 1830s. The dates of their time in eastern France can help find an understanding of what life may have been like during both the ending of the early modern period as well as the early years of the Industrial Revolution. The earliest ancestors that can be traced would have lived in a time of social and cultural change in France. Joseph Seifert, the father of Dominic Seifert, the first member to immigrate to the United States, would have been born just 8 years before the start of the French Revolution that saw France be transformed from a feudal society to a democratic republic. France, like the Germanic kingdoms and principalities of the time, would have an agrarian-based economy. Farmers in early modern France would have also been subject to the decisions of the nobility and wealthy landowners that leased the tenancy rights to the land they farmed. The Seifert ancestors, although having originated and lived in France and under the subject of the French monarchy, would have most likely spoken German. Their dialect would have most likely been Swabian, which is often spoken in southwestern Germany, Switzerland, and eastern France. France was a segmented kingdom, and while the Bourbon dynasty ruled the entire country, there was not a unified language until the coming years of the French Revolution, and it estimated that only half of the population spoke standard French in 1790. Although France could consider large plots of land suitable for farming, it did lack the resources of rivers and canals that many other European powers of the time had. Agriculture was a common form of sustainment in early modern France. However, Alsace was and still is known primarily as a wine-producing region. The winemaking tradition of Dominic and his son George Seifert during their lives in Indiana could provide evidence that when coupled with the family's roots in the Bas-Rhin district of the Alsace province, to lead to the determination that the Seifert ancestors worked in the Alsatian wine industry, most likely as assistants to the vintner or tending to the vineyards. It was common in France during the early modern period for the general population to be largely illiterate, and much like members of the non-noble classes in Europe, the life of the Seifert family was filled with long work days and minimal free time spent either in church or socializing with friends and family through meals, wine, and the sharing of folk stories and music. As was commonplace at the time for members of the non-noble classes to be illiterate, it can be expected that these stories and songs had been passed orally through generations. The province of Alsace was part of the greater Alsace-Lorraine region and had long been seen as a strategic position for many of the kings in central Western Europe. As a result of this strategic location, the history of this region has been littered with wars and battles that have seen families torn apart through the tragedy of war. After the brutality of the 30 Years' War, many families, the Seiferts included, sought to find a new, more peaceful life in the United States, leading many to immigrate in hopes of a brighter and safer future.